Yeah.
Police chase, whatever. Everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on?
Dude, police chases, I'm guaranteed. Every time I'm in LA, I'm guaranteed one police chase, and I have to sit down and watch the whole thing from beginning to end because I can't take my eyes off.
We actually have an app, so we get alerts.
It's amazing.
And then we rank them.
Oh my God.
And the best is when the K9 unit gets involved. That's when it's a 10. It's a 10 when the K9 unit gets involved.
By the way, John, just for this is the show. This is literally the show.
This is perfect.
This is totally the show.
This
is what we do.
Awesome.
It's just under the guise of goalkeeping. Like it's
every
really
once in a while, Mike will throw in a question.
Awesome.
It's good to see you. I can't believe we talked to Timmy and Blaj.
I know. I listened. It was unbelievable. It was a great show. I mentioned to Michael that those guys always got some sort of knowledge to drop, some sort of funny story to drop, and it was great to just hear their voices. I haven't seen Blaj in quite a few years, and Tim for that matter. We used to run into Tim just because with playing, and then you kind of when going to towns, you say hello and catch up a little bit, but I haven't seen Blaj in a while.
So that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh man.
Are you ready to get it started?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Hold on. Let me open up this comment. Make sure that I don't miss out on any of Shannon's comments this time. So that can't happen.
I think she's cooking.
Oh, she's cooking right now. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from, well, I like to say my bunker in Palm Desert, California, but I'm really at my dad's house in Palm Desert, California right now. With me is 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber, and joining us, this guy is a legend according to Eric Klinowski from Toronto FC too, the one and only John Conway from Toronto FC. Guys, the show's already started. Let's be honest, right? The show's already been going.
Yeah, we've been talking for a bit.
Yeah,
but you're missing something there, very important.
What is that?
Rutgers alumni.
Oh, Rutgers alumni, John Conway.
Saskia Weber. Let's go.
It's a Rutgers week. We're gonna have Casey Murphy on in a couple days, so it's a whole
lots of big stuff coming out of Rutgers or have come out of Rutgers.
You would have thought we would have won a national championship.
Yeah, for sure, right? For sure,
dude. I mean, we talked about it with Mulch and Blaj last week that just the amount of goalkeepers that come out of New Jersey and the whole history of it, it's just unreal. I mean, I literally look at guys' bios. I'm like, I had no idea this guy's from Jersey. And then I look at another person, it's like they're from Jersey. It's unreal. So
it's crazy. That state has put out a lot of people. I mean, goalkeepers in particular, but just in general, there's always Jersey guys floating around, the league and playing and doing well. And, I will say I'm not a Jersey guy. I went to school at Rutgers, but I did grow up in just outside Philadelphia. But I came to love the place. So I spent a lot of time there between my years there playing. I came back and played for the Red Bulls for a bit. My brother went to Rutgers as well. So long history of being a part of New Jersey and the New Jersey family.
Yeah, it's unreal what I've just been seeing. And every time I talk to somebody, there's some sort of Jersey connection, even if they didn't grow up in Jersey or play in Jersey. They're like, oh yeah, my goalkeeper coach is from Jersey. Or like, oh, so and so that I played with is from Jersey. It's just it's absolutely amazing, dude. And the one thing that I want to say is that you were talking about Blaj and Mulqueen that we had on last week, and it was so funny because they were sharing all these stories about you off the air.
Oh. Right. I can only imagine.
And then Blaj goes, he's like, I'm so excited to have Long John on. He's like, that's my nickname for him, Long John.
Just call me Long John. I don't know.
It was all good stuff. It was all good.
Yeah. Speaking of, to be fair, Saskia, we used to with Blaj. I mean, we used to train. You used to come and train with us every day during the fall.
Yeah, I would go. I said this the other day. I would go out to the Rutgers men's practice and train with the keepers, and then jump in my car and go over to Livingston campus and run on with, and then jump into women's practice.
I don't know if people really, appreciate how difficult, you know, what Saskia was doing. I mean, to jump in the way she did, and with the attitude and the commitment and the ability, and to train, and I took a lot from that, Saskia, just in the way you approached it mentally, and how you came in and just dove right in, and like, this is what I was doing, and I hope I was able to be a part of helping
Absolutely.
you and get better, and look at the game, and you helped me get better just by watching you, the way you attacked it, you know, the way you attacked the training, and we're just like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I just, you know, I think also I had the hats off to the Rutgers men's team because, and, you know, and Bob and everybody, just open arms. Like, it was open arms. It was like, get over here, get your training in, get back. And then even after I graduated, and that was my training ground for in between national team events. Like, I would be home in Jersey. I'd stay at my parents'. I'd get up in the morning. If it was winter, I'd get up at like 5 o'clock. I'd drive up to the bubble and I'd train with the men. And in the spring, I trained with the men. Like, that was it. I was a part of their club, their team for all those years.
Yep.
Absolutely. It made me who I was.
Yeah.
And fearless.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, I first of all, by the way, I just love this because like the last week or so with all the Jersey connections, I haven't had to do anything on this show. I've literally just sat back. And I've just listened to Saskia just tell stories with other people about the times.
Well, the stories I heard from Plage and Tim, I told you my dad called after and was like, "You called somebody a what?" And I was like, "Well, you know, they weren't defending." I was like, it's the only way I could get through to the guys. I learned a lot of things from men's soccer players. I'm not sure I can say on the air. I learned that they
how to curse is what you're saying.
That they can pee on the field. I don't all these interesting ways. And my favorite part was our warm-up laps and listening to all the college boy banter.
Oh yeah.
So like so while we're here, by the way, today's topic, guys, we're going to be talking about the lost art of throwing. The reason we're having John Conway on is yes, one of the most iconic throws in the history of Toronto FC history. That's literally, dude. Literally, do you know that in Wikipedia it literally just says like with this incredible throw by John Conway. The throw.
That's what we should just title it.
You and Tim Howard have the two most iconic throws in American history.
I guess so. I mean, that's a pretty good company to be in with him. I just to talk about throwing. I mean, I just did it out of necessity. To be fair, I mean, when I was 10, 11 years old, I couldn't kick it as far as I threw it, so I just threw it, and that's how it kind of went from there. It's pretty interesting. I mean, and now obviously, you know, the throw's not sexy anymore. It's not a sexy thing to do. Everybody wants to rip a sidewinder into somebody when all you got to do is throw it there, and it's just, if not more effective, but
more accurate.
Yeah.
Easier to control.
It's real interesting. You know, I don't know where it went. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know why. I mean, obviously, I think it's interesting because I think people get enamored by, and I know Saskia touched on this a little bit last episode about, you know, goalkeeper coaches looking at goalkeepers and making saves, and you're like, well, all they had to do was step a step to the right, and that would have made it a lot easier. Like, they made it look better than what it really is. And I think that sort of happened with this sidewinder thing. Like, people got really enthralled with it and still are. Now, some people are South American guys. You know, we got a guy here at Toronto FC, Quentin Westberg, that, you know, his ability to hit it out of his hands is second to none. I mean, it's impressive. But, you know, there's a lot of guys that are trying to do it that it's probably much easier and much more effective for them just to toss it and get it there.
We have a keeper, our keeper for UCLA. I've never seen anything like it. Her ability to do just that. You've seen it, Mike.
Oh yeah.
Her ability to hit that quick, but a half volley or sidewinder out of her hands, on point, like a dart, on like low, a dart right to somebody, it's amazing. But not everybody can do that. And there are times that I'm just like, just throw the ball. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
totally. You know, it's interesting when we talk about this. Like, I was just taught, you know, what I threw the ball to the person, knowing what their next actions were going to be.
exactly.
And I knew what I wanted them to do with it, and my throw dictated what they were going to do with it. So if I knew they could run with it, I put it on the ground in front of them so they can chase it and go forward, not, you know, leave it behind them so it slows it up. If I knew I was throwing to a big number 9, I chuck it hard into their chest and they just post up and hold it.
If you were looking for them to flick on because you saw somebody running up the side, you threw it a certain type of throw to your head. And I was the same way. I mean, we came from the same mold. Like I had a great arm. I prided myself on it. I played outfield for baseball when I was little, and I'm sure some of that came from there, but I loved throwing the ball. I loved it. You know, and I had so much control of what was going on.
That's the one thing. I mean, there's a few moments where you can control and dictate kind of as the quarterback what you wanted to do next or what needed to get done next. And I think are very valuable. But you brought up another point, you know, the guys touched on this and you touched on this in the last episode was, you know, I don't think people know how to throw the ball now because nobody plays anything else. And that's unfortunate. You know, I think that's sort of kind of why we're in an area we are with goalkeeping right now. And I'll hit on it kind of two ways. You know, early on, and you guys talked about Tim and Brad and Brad Friedel, Brad Guzan, Casey Keller, all these guys. You know, at that time, number one, first and foremost, and we still should be, they protected the goal better than anybody. They could stop shots all day long. And I think what happened was because of their popularity, because of their notoriety playing in big leagues in Europe, there became a lot of goalkeeper trainers, not necessarily coaches, but like trainers. And they train goalkeepers, and we all do this because we all have to make money and coach. But they just trained them and didn't train, you know, not more training the right things, but just trained them. And, you know, it was 5 days a week of goalkeeper training. And I think what we've lost is you can still early stages in that foundation stage, train a couple of days a week as a goalkeeper and train a couple of days a week as a field player. And you can still say, okay, we're going to go play. You know, I don't want you to train tonight. If you have a basketball game on Saturday, I want you to go play basketball. Like, go play tennis. And that was a big thing I've struggled with at Toronto FC is, you know, we take a lot of their time. We demand a lot of their time. But we're slowly transitioning to learning that like some of these other transferable skills we're missing out on. And some of the other things that we're missing out on is that we've created goalkeepers and tried to make them soccer players instead of creating sort of soccer players and then making them goalkeepers. Yeah. Which I think is a better way to go because, you know, Saskia, you're the same way. I mean, you played both. You played in the field, you played in goal, and it just so happened that goalkeeper was the position that kind of you had the most sort of notoriety and got the most success out of. And I think it's a shame because I think we in this sort of window that we're in with goalkeeping, we've created a lot of guys that were really good goalkeepers, but they aren't as good soccer players, and they're kind of lacking in that area. Now we're transitioning, kind of starting to try and transition out of that at this point.
But I think that cross training is so important, and it doesn't stop. I train with the Rutgers women's basketball team, one of the best teams in the country. Yeah. Like I'd be with my private trainer and Tommy, and he would be like, "Come on, the girls."
I feel like this is why Saskia's in the Hall of Fame for Rutgers, not just the soccer Hall of Fame. She's in the athletic Hall of Fame.
Because she was trying to get on that. She was playing with every other team.
Dude, she's on the diving team.
I'm a horrible shooter, but I would do their footwork. I would work with the ball with them and everything because it helped me as a goalkeeper. Period. Yeah. it's hand-eye coordination. It's a lot of the same concepts. And I agree with you. Our kids don't do anything else. And they should do other things, and they shouldn't do it just specifically because. But I started doing sports so it would benefit my soccer at one point. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, look at, we actually have a fan, an insider who reached out and he left a review. And really, really nice review, by the way. The kid's actually Brian Dowd, and he's part of the U17 national team, #1 college recruit going to Notre Dame. He's also going to try to play football there too at the same time.
Right, we were talking about this.
Which is, more power to him, man. But the fact that he committed himself enough to 2 sports to be able to play at that level in 2 different sports just showcases, because a lot of parents, they come to me and they go, well, he's got to pick and choose. He's got to pick and choose. He's got to stop playing. And they're 10 or 9 or something like that. And my favorite thing is, my #1 thing that I hear from them is I hear Saskia's computer.
Sorry.
I think that's what.
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
all good. All good. Is people say, oh, well, at the academies in Europe, they're only playing soccer. They're only playing soccer at the academies in Europe. Look, we have a different sports culture in our country than in Europe. And whether that's right or wrong, it's different. And honestly, I think that, and if you talk to, some of the guys from the older generations, as they'll say, that's the reason why initially we were able to produce high level goalkeepers, because the hand-eye coordination, like Saskia was talking about, training with the Rutgers basketball team. Maybe you don't have to go to that extent of training with
it was just part of my cross training. It was like, okay,
that's amazing. That's awesome that they let you do that. That's incredible that they let you do that.
No, they were amazing. I was recruited for college for lacrosse. So, and I wasn't a goalkeeper, I was a center. So that was my fitness in the spring, and running and competition and everything. It gave me another outlet. My whole life wasn't soccer. It was good to do something else.
Yeah. So
that's the other thing, by the way. Sorry to interject.
No worries, man. It's all good.
Hold
on. I said, it's a Jersey couple weeks. I'm not doing anything. Jersey runs the show. I'm just here. So
the Jersey does kind of run the show.
It's
pretty crazy. I'm not a Jersey. I'm a Philly guy.
You are a Jersey guy.
Oh, shout out to go ahead. Before I give a shout out to Jersey people.
I guess my point was the burnout rate with these kids now with playing, it's out of control. You have to be so careful. We have all this sports science at Toronto C for our academy kids. And, at some point it just becomes mentally, are they going to be able to do it? And I get it. There's definitely sports where it's the battle of attrition. For instance, baseball players, they get drafted and go to the minor leagues, and they got to kind of slog it out in the minor leagues before they get to the majors. But, soccer is obviously different. And I think at some point, the creativity of these kids and the want to get better has got to fade sometimes with the amount of stuff that we put on them and the amount of times we've asked them to do this over the span. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's going to make some great players. But I
agree with you 100%. I even told my players during this downtime. Some club coaches have the mentality that every day, blah blah blah. I was like, first of all, we didn't see the kids every day. We saw them twice a week or something like that. So to give them an everyday, in my opinion, soccer program that they have to do themselves, I think we weren't doing that before. And I tell some of my kids, I'm like, just go do something, please. Go play basketball in your driveway with your brother or your sister, or go for a bike ride or go for a swim if you can. Just do something, But it doesn't always have to be soccer. That's just
be a kid.
Yeah.
I want to talk about improvisation because you were bringing that up in regards to, trying different stuff out and being creative and not being robots. And that's kind of one of the things that I really love about throwing, is because it allows you to be improvisational. So for some of the parents out there who are listening to the podcast who may not be as familiar with the terminology and the vernacular that we use and everything like that, what is a throw in your guys' opinions, and how does that differ kind of from any other sort of hand distribution? I know they're like, well, my kids bowl the ball out. Is that the same thing as throwing? And I kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, whoever wants.
I think, a throw is any method you choose to be able to put the player that you're giving the ball to in a better position than you are, or in a more advantageous position to perform the next action. I mean, obviously you have to choose the right technique of what's required of the person that you're giving it to, whether it's, overhand, a pull from the side.
Oh, dude, you got to do it again, dude. I love it. You were doing that side
throw
there. Boom! Look at that.
Whatever it is, just get it there so they can deal with it, and you're in a better position. Just like being a field player. I mean, you a lot of times, you see players just give another player a ball without really any forethought as to what the next action is going to be. You need to pass the ball to your teammate so that they can perform the next action in a good way. Same way with a throw. Like, I always just getting it there isn't the end all be there. It's getting it there the right way so that the action can be performed and they can move the ball forward, or eliminate the attacker, or be able to play the next guy that's open, that you can't get it to. They're able to get it to. So that's the way I kind of looked at it. So whether it's whatever choice of throw, it's just the correct one for the action that's needed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just getting rid of the ball and getting out of your problem.
Yeah.
And making it somebody else's. You have to understand, you have to read the game and understand that the throw you're giving them, I agree, whichever forum you want to do, it's a throw. And they should be able to use one touch with that ball. If they want to immediately pass the ball on, they can. If they want to flick it on, they can. If they need it, if they want to take 2 touches, they can. But the ball shouldn't be bouncing up into their chest, so they have to take 2 touches to control it and then deal with things. And you have the ability with a throw to make that quality.
One thing I notice a lot of times with younger goalkeepers is, first off, let's be honest. I personally think at the youth level that the technique of different types of throws is just not taught anymore. I think everything is put the ball on the ground, play it with your feet. When the ball's in your hands, they're looking out, how quickly can I get this to my feet, rather than how quickly can I get the counter going. And a lot of that is just because the youth coaches, they just don't put the time into the mechanics. So then they get these kids. I mean, I'll be straight up honest. Like, I was training a kid this past weekend on Zoom. Yes, that's a thing I'm doing, guys. And we can talk all about that later. Don't think that I'm going out to the fields and doing anything that's illegal. Stay at home, everybody. She just straight up did not have the mechanics down. He's 13 or 14 years old, DA keeper. And that's just because, like, no one's ever showed him how to do a sling throw. No one's ever really brought it down to him. So can we kind of,
some people don't, because some coaches don't know how to do it either.
That's a really good point.
Just saying.
No, that's actually a really good point. So can we talk about, like, kind of like what the different types of throws are and what's most effective at what distance? Because personally, in my opinion, I love what you two were saying, is like, it's about what gets it there and is the most advantageous for that player. Like, when you're a field player, you're not thinking, well, like, okay, well, at this moment, this is when I always go with the inside of my foot or the outside of my foot or whatever. You're not thinking that way. You're like, okay, this is how I'm going to get that ball to that player in that moment. Right.
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
Go ahead, Sas. Go ahead.
I think anything for me personally, I think it differs, but I think in this situation, but I think for me personally, like, when I'm trying to lead a player, or play a really, like, penetrative ball that's going instantly into offense, an offensive situation, then I use sling throw and I get it there quick and fast. If I'm going short and near me, then I'm usually bowling the ball or I'm giving a side throw. And because if you give a sling throw at too close of a distance, it's too much. It's too close. You want to give something that is proper for the player to control, to get to where, like you said, John, to get to the next step, to get to where you want to go. And I mean, it would vary. It absolutely varies. But I think anything as you move forward and you're looking more up the field than a sling throw, if that's what you want to call it, was always my go-to and my weapon.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Sas. I mean, the sling throw was always the one that I used the most. I think it was either over the top sling, and obviously I changed the the arm angle a little bit to mess with the trajectory and the spin.
And the spin.
Yep.
So I could change it up based on where it needed to go and make it move and slide the way I wanted it to get in the player's feet the right way. I very rarely threw sort of like the baseball kind of
No.
The push throw.
The push
That always
throw.
hurt my
Very
shoulder.
rarely. Yeah, that.
It always really hurt my shoulder, and that it's to get that spin on it right.
Yeah.
It's like an open hand, and you have to kind of spin it. It's just.
You know what I
wasn't
find?
my favorite throw.
I find
could
for,
do it.
I find for younger youth keepers, it is the most difficult throw for them to get down.
Well, I also
It's a
because
strength.
you also have to step into it, and a lot of young keepers stand too upright and try to do it from too high, and it kind of takes away the whole point. It really is something that you're taking a good step, bending your knees and getting low and throwing it in. I'm with.
By the way,
Yeah.
this is my favorite topic we've ever done, just because of the simple fact that like all the visual aids from everybody actually, there's no way to describe without actually doing it, right? So
Yeah,
like, you have to
totally.
do it.
Just start thinking about your arms like flying all over. The
Yeah,
place.
exactly.
I will say this though, for the kids out there, the two throws that I would be very good at are obviously being able to bowl it with a decent amount of pace and accuracy, and obviously over the head, slingshot, as you guys were calling it.
I agree.
For me, those, if you can do those two, and obviously on the one where you come over to the top, obviously if you can change your arm angle a little bit, it'll be able to change the trajectory, and you just got to play with it. I think it's really interesting though, because like,
and you got to pay attention to the spin, but there has to be the proper spin on the ball. If you have the wrong
the
spin on the
spin
ball,
is
it's going to hit.
the spin's the one that really changed for me a little bit, because I learned how to make it spin, and I could make it pick up pace, or I could make it slow down, or I could make it do
bend.
what it needed to do. Bend. The bend was an amazing one. Like, so what I found was that a lot of the center backs, if I was throwing a longer one, which when I used the more of making it move and obviously a right hander, it was easier to me to make it curve sort of left to right. If I could throw it and I could cross their feet up if I did it the right way.
Right.
So I knew from the pattern of how my guy was running that I could throw it, and the defender, I could cross him up enough that could give my guy an advantage.
Absolutely.
On the other side, because they couldn't track it right, and it would just keep moving on them, and it would be enough for them to get fumbled a little bit that I could gain a little bit of an advantage there.
It's so weird because
You know,
I don't think I've ever discussed breaking it down, but I used to be able, same thing. I used to be able to throw the ball and basically bend it around their defense
Exactly.
and into the path of the person that was moving. And so it wasn't just some straight throw. It was like a ball that moved and curved around and then landed on stride. And it was always a big thing I used with the national team and at Rutgers.
It's funny, you look at other sports, and like obviously, growing up, playing football in the backyard, playing baseball, but it really dawned on me later on. My buddies at Rutgers were baseball guys, and I used to go, they used to do basketball layup drills to warm up before they went out to practice. So I go over and do layup drills and dunk and hang out and do whatever with them, and then they'd go out and practice, and I go watch a little bit just to see what I could pick up. And that's when I realized, like, a lot of times when they were in trouble, they bounced the ball into the first baseman on their toss.
Right.
And because the ball, if it stayed in the air longer, it lost its pace. If they used the ground, it was able to skip and get more pace. So I started to mess around with that a little bit on some throws. And because of the pace, you would be able to deceive the defender enough that would give you a little bit of time into the attacker, especially if the grass was wet. You can make it just slide in there a little bit faster. And
especially if it's wet.
Instead of throwing it straight to him, you could slide it in and make it jump, and it would get there quicker.
I used to jump in the batting cage with the Rutgers.
By the way, my favorite thing, my favorite thing, John, is like,
I would grab a bat and jump in the batting cage.
Yeah. And you guys are just such exceptional athletes. It's just not fair. John's like saying, he's like, yeah, I'd go out there, I'd go lay up lines, and like dunk and hang out, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, shut up.
That was back in the day when I was, not
Crippled?
and not moving too well. Yeah, not moving so well anymore.
But I love, first off, I love what you were talking about in regards to hitting the ground, because what you're talking about a lot of times is just different reps, just trying out things, figuring out what works in situations. And then that way you have that arsenal. Because one of the issues that I come with a lot of the kids is when something doesn't work for them, they go, I don't like that. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's not the thing I want. So I like, this is how I like to throw, and this is what I do. And my problem with that is, and then I see this at the youth level all the time. I love you brought up the fact about in regards to distance and the weight of the pass, because it's the same thing with your feet. And I always explain that to them. I'm like, look, would you just hammer a ball at a player who's checking into you? And why are you rifling the ball at them? Like, you have to understand, like, the distance determines the weight of the pass, you know? And I also like the fact that you're bringing up kind of that disguised element, because I think that's one of the issues a lot of times with kids when they throw, is that they just telegraph their pass. So then they freak out and they go, I can't throw anymore, because they know where I'm throwing the ball.
So it's that the throwing, the disguise one, the other one I started to mess around with was, watching quarterbacks, and like, quarterbacks, Brett Favre was really good at kind of disguising his passes, kind of off, looking away and, look away pass, kind of in basketball. So I started to kind of throw some balls in training where I look one way and kind of toss it the other way. It's because the defenders started to shift, obviously, because they see you looking one way and you toss it the other way and you catch guys. But again, I mean, for the throws that are, 25, 30 yards, you could still get away with that. I try and not look at who I'm going to throw it to, because obviously, as I just said, as soon as they see who you're going to, they're going to start to pressure that. So I try and deceive it, give it some deception, even on the shorter ones. And you brought up an interesting point. I was just thinking about this as you're saying that, especially when you're working with the kids. I think they don't work on these skills because basically right now everybody is rolling it out 5 yards, 10 yards to either side of them and looking to build up and build through people. And we're not talking about, if the goalkeeper gets it, can he throw it through that first line of pressure or even through the second line of pressure into somebody and build from there? Everybody wants to kind of lay it laterally.
I totally agree with you.
It's driving me nuts. Like, we have to be discussing this. If the goalkeeper has this in his hands, or she has in her hands, and they have the ability to break that first line of pressure and again put somebody in a better position than you are by throwing it laterally, then we should be teaching that. We should be stopping the exercise.
Look high.
And letting the guys know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look high.
My first look every time.
Is high. It's high and wide. Can I get those wide players in that are on the run, that are bending and on my throw, on one hop into their foot, and now it's instant. And which is why I said the other day, I love small-sided games, because it forces a keeper. Well, if you tell your keeper to, you can really see the kind of the fruits of your labor if you do that. Because if you get that good throw in a small-sided game, it's a one-touch and shot, and it kind of. You start liking that and looking high. And I always say, like, you can be a penetrative first pass on attack as a goalkeeper. Yep. Like, you absolutely can. Don't think so defensively, like, okay, I got the ball here, to my left, to my right. Now you guys build the ball up. You can, absolutely.
But I think a lot of kids need to understand that a throw is a pass. It's not a release and of a pressure situation, because a lot of younger keepers, and I'm even talking about even into the younger DA levels, when they throw the ball, it's not my problem.
Exactly.
It's not my problem. Not my problem. Now it's
You're
yours.
Just getting rid of it. It's not my fault.
How did you help the pass for the next shot on goal?
Exactly.
Well, Lodge just said hi, John.
Oh,
say hi back.
Hey, Lodge.
Hold on. Someone else just commented right here. Tim Jacob, keep the jersey thing going! Exclamation point.
Yay.
I think that's to you, Sask. All right, let's talk about this.
No, I think he meant New Jersey.
Oh, the jersey.
Not my jersey.
Oh. Jersey, yeah, for sure.
He meant New Jersey.
I thought he meant your jersey because you've been putting the jerseys up.
No.
Definitely.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I totally
spelled
exactly the same.
Right over your head. I think it's something that the kids have to practice, and they have to practice and practice. And I agree with you 100%, John. We're not, you're not coming from multi-sport athletes and some of the kids I have that are baseball players and stuff like that, they have the fundamental skills, and I break it down. And sometimes I take the kids, because a lot of them do understand baseball in a sense. I stick them on a pitcher's mound, and I explain to them like how their body shape has to be in order to throw a proper ball. Like if you, if you want to put that ball on a line right here, you're not going to step that way and try to throw a fastball.
Yeah.
Right. So, and like I mess around with different things just to kind of identify with them with that. But you've got to do it. It's not just going to happen.
Totally.
It's a different way.
You got to practice.
It's a different way of holding the ball, different way of releasing the ball. You got to practice it. You can't just say, "Well, I kind of know how to throw." We're just watching a recruiting video, and one of the many. I was just looking at a video.
Oh God, I can't even imagine some of the videos.
Everything was great, but the distribution, I was like, well, "What kind of throw was that?" I'm like it's those fundamentals that drive me crazy.
I want to talk about this because John, obviously, you're working with with veterans and also you help out with some of the TFC2 guys. They come up and train with the first team a little bit too, right? And obviously some of the academy guys and stuff. What is the one fundamental difference that you've recognized in regards to hand type of distribution? From the academy all the way up to the veteran types. You're taking someone like Quentin Westberg, who's 33 years old, and everything that he's experienced, playing over in France, in the second division over there, and then obviously coming over here, a little bit of time with youth national teams, versus one of the TFC kids who's basically his academy kids, and basically all he's been doing is playing in the TFC academy most of his life.
It's real interesting because Quentin was at Clairefontaine, which is the French basically center for soccer excellence. That's their headquarters. So what they would do is they would scout the whole country, and they'd go there and meet and train. And he was a part of that program in France. And one thing that he recognizes, I think, better than anybody else is the game. I mean, he understands the game. He understands the type of passes that need to be played. He understands the type of distribution that needs to be done in the moment. I think that's an element that we don't have here. And I think that's because, is there a real understanding of the game? And what I mean by that, and we just talked about it, as field players, I think if you understood the game of soccer and you were a soccer player first and then a goalkeeper, that you would understand space, time, weight, all those things, because you're able to, you have to manipulate it with your feet to make that happen. And then if it comes to goalkeeping, it just, for me, if it coming out of your hands, it just makes it that much easier because I'm that much more accurate. At least in my world, I was that much more accurate at doing that. So I think in Quentin's case, he recognized that because his level of understanding of the game is competency in playing and being comfortable on the ball. He was fine. And again, he is also effective at stopping the ball, which makes him a good goalkeeper. But more importantly, his ability to read, evaluate, and make decisions like that is what sets him apart. I think that's what you miss.
Yeah,
with the academy guys.
I tell my players, sometimes, sometimes you get the kid that has to be thrown in the goal and he's a field player, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll look at that. I'll just be like, just play soccer. And I'm just if they're a defender, whatever. How would you defend this ball if somebody was coming at you? Think about it. You understand the game, just like you said, positioning, pressure, everything. I go, it's the same thing. And in this moment, just don't try to think I gotta think about goalkeeping. Just be a soccer player, and we can work from there. Be a soccer player. Okay, yes, you close the space because somebody was coming at you like you would if you were a defender. Awesome, So I think a great base.
It's interesting, Sassi, because I think we kind of come from the same school in a lot of ways, but I was
literally the same school. So that's
literally the same school. Can you solve the problem with your voice before it becomes an action that you need to take? Yeah. And I think where the bit of an issue lies is the kids don't know what to say because they don't understand what it's like to be in that position. So if they were center, center back, what do they want to hear from their goalkeeper,
Right.
and what does, and vice versa. And I don't think we're quite there yet. It's something that we talk about with our academy, and when we talk with our our three coaches, myself, Phil Berger, and Luciano Lombardi within the academy, about how we do things. Is it's an important thing that they have to understand the information that they give, and to give the better information, you have to recognize what it's like to be in that position, and vice versa. I think it's important that a center back goes stand in goal and see what we're seeing, or our center midfielder, so that they can understand what we're seeing in that moment to be able to help.
And they can also understand why the goalkeeper, when they are communicating, is telling them to do a certain thing.
Yes.
Why is the goalkeeper telling me to pressure the ball in this moment, or to force the ball right, or to step up? And so if I see it from their eyes, and I see it from that, okay, because now I'm closing the space and he doesn't have a good angle on the goal, and this and that and the other. You have to see it that way. But
I want to come back to Quentin there in regards to, his education and everything, and obviously his understanding of the game, because at such a young age, he was taught how to problem solve and how to understand the game first and foremost. I think honestly, one of the issues, and actually Mo Queen and I, we talked about this, off the air, is that problem solving is kind of one of those things that a lot of coaches don't focus on. They focus on the technique, or they focus on the tactical, the tactical element of goalkeeping, but they don't teach kids how to make a decision to come up with a solution for a problem that they're in. Or they teach them patterns, and then they just try to follow these patterns, and that's one of the biggest issues in my mind. And I'm wondering if that's even an issue at the high elite development academy level. Regards to Saskia, UCLA, that's a high level. You at TFC.
So we, obviously video has changed a lot of what we do, and the ability to go over some things and ask them at that moment, what were they thinking? What was your solutions? Why did you decide to go this way? Here's something that I would think about doing, or this is something that, translates because I was in this position before, and this is what I did, and this didn't work. So don't do this. Maybe try this. And, just having that dialogue, I think, is the most important thing. Listen, I know I'm not right all the time with what these guys are doing. I know that. And I know that they're going to give me information that I need to look at differently as well. It's just about as you said, finding the best solution. And I can't change, like, for instance, you talk about Quentin. Quentin's 33 years old. He's done this a long time. I don't really change Quentin. I manage Quentin more so than anything. With Bones, Alex Bono, who we brought up, drafted, and then developed through TFC2 and then through the first team. It's more of a development thing with him, and the way I address him is a little bit differently than the way I address Quentin, and the way we talk about how we get better is a lot different. I make sure with Quentin, and we say this, and I'll tell you guys, I tell, listen, payday Saturday, Q, what we need to do during the next 4 days to make sure you're ready, because I'm not going to change much with him. I just want him to know that Saturday he's invincible, and he's going to go out and pitch me a shutout or save 2 or 3 balls that win us the game. And payday Saturday, so I want to make sure that you're ready for it. And that's the way I would work with him. With Bones, as I said, it's something different. And then we had Clint Irwin here, and Clint and I was more of a coaching and talking about. He was very cerebral, and we needed to talk about things a bit more. And he was very good at breaking down stuff. And then he would say to me, "This is what I see," and I go, "Well, I see this. Can we make a kind of in between and come up with the best solution to make sure that we're successful on the weekend?" But it's real interesting, like you say about problem solving. You just have to know. You have to be able to extract the information from the goalkeeper, and you also have to be able to relate to them and what they need to get the best out of them when finding the solution based on what their set is, what their skill set is.
Yeah.
I want to bring this up because Blodge just brought this up right now, and you took
Why are you seeing the stream? I'm not.
You're not seeing the stream?
I'm not.
I'm seeing it on my phone.
Okay.
I'm so you get
go
on my
ahead.
phone. You're not seeing it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Oh, you know what? Because you have to go back to the the regular Inside the 18 page to see the comments from the direct feed right there. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. John's like, this is flying off the rails.
I don't see anything. I just see you guys. So
Well, if you go on Facebook right now, you could see it. Do you have
I
Facebook?
don't have I don't have Facebook.
Yeah. My favorite is
I still
Mulch.
don't see it.
Mulch is like, I'm not on social media.
Yeah,
Look,
I still
Yeah.
can't see it.
Look, pal, you're not going to find me on social media.
Yeah, no Facebook. I got the other guys, but no Facebook.
So Blodge brought this up, and you took the pro goalkeeper license, which U.S. Soccer offered for a minute,
Yeah.
literally a minute, and like let's not even go into there. Why I'm I mean, and obviously I understand for the first course that they had to they wanted to as a pilot to see if it was going to work. They wanted to keep it very limited in who regards to got to take it, because I would have taken it in a heartbeat. But what did they do any problem solving type of work? How game related was that course? Because I think honestly, this is something that I stress with young goalkeeper coaches all the time. And I know we've gone off on a tangent from throwing, but it goes back to throwing, because problem solving is throwing. And how much focus was there on game related problem solving in that course?
There was, it covered a lot of topics. It was definitely part of it. I think, and something that we should all be doing is that the game demands determine the training environment, right? So what's asked of your goalkeepers based on your style of play, based on that particular goalkeeper, and based on the actions that they see from an opponent, or maybe the deficiencies in your team, so that they may see more of those actions, that should be sort of the emphasized actions that you get out during a week of training. Part of this course, I mean, it was an interesting course just to put these guys all in a room and be a part of sort of the conversations. All the 8 of us were all working obviously at MLS clubs. And we're able to hear how they deal with their guys and the personalities of each of the guy and how they go about it. Even to this day, during this quarantine, I'm going back and taking some of the stuff that we did with regards to, our style of play has evolved at Toronto FC. So in that regard, I have to change how I'm looking at things and making sure that I'm doing the best things to make sure that it fits how we're approaching the games week in, week out. So, I'm looking back at that now and going through and building a sort of a new identity of where we are and where we're going to go in the next couple of years, and working with Phil Berger, who's the USL and college liaison for all our players and our academy. And our academy coach Luciano Lombardi, we've kind of started to revamp a little bit where we're going and where we see us going. And it started from that course, just looking and self-evaluating where we're at. And you go back, as I said, the question was about problem solving. And again, the game demands what you need to get out of your sessions, what you need to get out of your goalkeepers. And I think that's one thing that I looked at. We have all these sessions and everybody can come up and come up with a session and come up with actions. But are they appropriate for, your goalkeeper and how he moves? Are they appropriate for what you guys are doing in games and how you're defending? Are they actions that they see regularly? And that's sort of where we're at, what we look at, and that's how we kind of build our weeks around that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Saskia, we talked about this earlier in regards to the fact that there's so many people that are just watching, and thank you, John, for bringing that up in regards to drills and sessions, because there's such an emphasis in the goalkeeping community on, let me see your session, let me check out this session, blah, 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 this or whatever. But the context is very many times lost because people don't understand what the demands are for those keepers at that time, where they are in their periodization of their training,
Oh,
you know,
there's that word, periodization.
Yeah.
and then the scouting element, or what are the strengths and weaknesses of the team they're playing this coming weekend. So what you get is a bunch of people scouring YouTube, taking sessions that they find, putting it with their youth keepers, and then wondering why they're like, well, I don't understand. I saw it. It worked for Man City. Why is it not working with me?
Well, well, you know, with club especially, like, you know, with having multiple teams and everything like that, I make sure that I'm on point with, I can't be at every game on the weekend. We talked about this. So I make sure I talk with every coach and find out whether some I get to see video of, some I don't. And some games I'm at. And see, you know, where the breakdowns are, what's going on defensively, what's going on with the goalkeepers, where they're making consistent mistakes within their system, within the team that they're on. And I incorporate that into the next week's session and the next week's training, and finding out who they're playing this upcoming week and what that team likes to do. And, you know, depending on, you know, some of the little levels going up to the higher ones and the older ones, but you have to do your due diligence and do that. It's not just, all right, this week we're going to work on, I don't know, 3-goal situation or crosses or something like that, when it's got nothing to do with the breakdowns that are happening with the team. It's got nothing to do with what your goalkeeper's struggling with in games. And you have to put the time in and find out. And yes, your sessions and the way you move forward as a team, not just as an individual, as a goalkeeper, is to work on those things as a group and fundamentally and individually. Okay, let me break my session down with my keeper right now, because this is where they're really struggling. This is where they've been struggling in the games. And then let me incorporate that, talk to the coach, and then we'll work forward from there with the defense and why this is happening and how to effectively change that. Yeah. It's not just, all right, go. You're not when you're in academy and not when you're, you know, in club coaching. It's not just, all right, dive, you know, catch some crosses, do some volleys, and you're ready.
I by the way, I love the fact that John's like, you know, we're trying to evolve and trying to, you know, see, you know, how much farther we can take. I'm like, dude, aren't you guys an MLS Cup like every other year? Like, I don't know how much farther you can
Where
take.
Where are you going?
I get, you know, there's still stuff out there that we want to achieve, and again, we've been pretty successful the last you know, 5 years or so, and you know, it's still, though, there's people chasing you all the time. I mean, this is professional sports is a, you know, dog eat dog. Like, if you're not winning, then, you know, you're not maybe as valuable and wanted. So we have to continue to win and continue to push it to get better. And again, you know, I want my guys to be successful, and as successful as they can be. And, you know, I'm just a, you know, of the train of their career, I'm just a station stop. And while they're here at my station, I'm going to give them whatever I knew and have learned from doing this, try and make them better through our, you know, group dynamic and our ability to relate to each other and our ability to get the best out of each other. And then when they move on, I hope that they take those things and keep moving with their career and get to the highest level that they can. And I think that's part of why we've been successful. And it's part of why, you know, I try and do these sort of kind of reevaluate and make sure that we're moving everything in the right direction because of that. Yeah. Because I want them to be the best. And I also know I'm not the last stop for most of these guys. They still got places to go in their career and things they want to achieve. And I want them to get there. And I want to be helpful in doing that.
I mean, it's like me going with Paul and Tim. I mean, They weren't the last stop, obviously, on my career, but by God, they were one of the most important.
Exactly. And you take that stuff that they taught you and move on to wherever you go to next.
Absolutely. And you can tell that we came from the same cloth in that sense, like, you know, and I respect, and I will always go back to it. And I love finding out, like, a player that I see at camp or see somewhere has gone through the same bumps and bruises and process I did, and whether it's trained by Blodge or other coaches or, you know, or Mo Queen, it puts in my head, I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And
But by the way, I always tell kids, like, if I'm your last stop on your goalkeeping journey, then I have not done my job.
Yeah.
I have not done my job, because honestly, I love the fact that, because there's a lot of, especially people in the youth game, a lot of them become very, I don't want to say they become very territorial in regards to their talent, if quote unquote. And my favorite thing is whenever you talk to any high level goalkeeper coach, they always go, and Tim Dittmer said this at the FA when somebody, raised their hand at a Q&A. And he said, he's like, so with your keepers, and he goes, okay, first off, he's like, they're England's keepers. They're not my keepers.
Right.
Like, they play for England. And I just happen to have the fortune to work with them and help guide them. But whenever anyone takes ownership of a kid, I always say, then you're the last stop, and they're not moving forward. And like, it's the same thing with clubs when they're not willing to let a player move on to a higher level club. Like, it's like, what is your job? Your job is development. Your job is a teacher.
absolutely.
I want to come back to throwing real quickly, because I know we went off on a real big tangent there. I want to talk about the overhead throw, because personally in my career, I used to love using the overhead throw. I still use the overhead throw in men's leagues. Catches a lot of people off guard because they don't expect it coming. And that's just the typical overhead, out of bounds overhead throw. Did you guys ever use it in your careers? And do you ever train it?
No.
Okay.
But I will say something. All field players need to start working on it, because I've never seen such a down spiral of anything, any technique in soccer as a throw-in right now. And that goes to like all levels. It is ridiculous that these field players cannot take a throw-in. And not just a throw-in like, oh, here's your ball, like with purpose, the same as a goalkeeper does, like, it's unbelievable. I never used it as a goalkeeper. I think I've picked up the ball in a quick situation once and just gone like that really quick. But as far as like using it like consciously in the run of play in a game, I don't think I've ever done it that way.
I've done it to play the ball over attackers. That's when I've done it. I've done it to play the ball over attackers, to drop into a player in space to be able to move forward.
No, I think only in practice, just to get the ball in my hand, out of the situation really quick. But I think
I think I may have used that maybe once or twice, and I came out in traffic and had it, caught a ball in traffic and already had it up, and then I saw somebody and I just kind of flinged it to them as quick as I could to start a counter, but I can't remember doing it regularly.
Okay,
Speaking about throw-ins, hold on for a second. I think Liverpool. This is a common problem, because we have a little bit of an issue with some of the guys that throw in. But I mean, Liverpool, I believe it was Liverpool hired a guy out of Scandinavia that was like a throw-in
specialist. Absolutely.
Was like, these are the.
I can't think of a more cush gig than that. Are you kidding me? Throw-in specialist for Liverpool.
I want to say it was Liverpool. I may be wrong. It was a big club, but they brought in somebody from Scandinavia to set those actions up, because they were losing possession on every throw-in.
Yeah, it's not just throwing the ball at somebody, it's using it the same way we would use a sling throw as like, advancing attack, putting it in the right position. If you're throwing it to somebody to flick on, they should know that. Like, there's situations, and like, I will dumb it down even more. These kids can't throw the ball in at all. So like whether I'm like talking about upper levels, like planning plays off of it, I'm talking about not throwing the ball in properly at all.
We just found a new role for you at UCLA. You can be the throw-in specialist too.
I wasn't referring to UCLA.
Oh, okay.
Although we're to the level that we need to actually make it more of a direct play or something. But when I've never seen more like foul throws called in my life in like club right now, and I'm just like, how is this possible? Is this something that has totally nobody cares about for like years and years and years? It's ridiculous. And now they do the one from the side. I was like, I always thought that was illegal. Like, you can't really
apparently
twist. And apparently not. Apparently nobody's paying attention.
I've seen some ugly ones too, and they're just one-handed, like holding the ball, like one hand next to it, one hand behind it, kind of pushing it like this, flinging it forward.
It's a nightmare.
The
Field
best-
coaches, get on it.
Best throw-in, I am not kidding you. The best throw-in I ever saw in my life was when I was on regional staff for ODP for Region 4, which is obviously the West Coast, and Alaska is part of that. This was probably, I don't know, 12, 13, back when ODP was a thing. And and anyway, the Alaska kid, he could throw this ball. I've never seen anyone, the flexibility this kid had. And he said it was all from all of the casting that he did from fishing.
Fly fishing?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. From all the casting.
Always
So
wanted to
he
fly.
taught the torque of his body. If anyone's watching this right now and they wonder what is this motion I'm doing right now?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. That's my
I think it's
impression of
more
fly
like
fishing.
this, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But anyway, but it taught it. And I also want to say to any kid who trains at LA Goalkeeping Academy, sorry. I just talked to 2 professional goalkeepers right now, and they have no idea what I'm talking about using that overhead throw. So that's on me. No, it's
I can go back to the
advantageous. It's
throw.
in your hand. Improvisation.
Yeah.
It's in your hand.
Totally.
Boom. Throw it
Saying
out.
not to do it. I'm just saying it's not something I trained, but I'm saying all the field players need to train it.
Look, us people that aren't exceptional athletes like you two, we need to train everything. We need to train how to hold
For
the
every
phone
situation.
for every situation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what coaches can do to help their kids, and not just kids, but any level of goalkeeper with their throws. What are some of the? Let's talk about the mistakes that a lot of those coaches make. Because my personal favorite is that whenever they teach any sort of technique, and this does not just have to do with throws, is that it's not game related. They're just teaching the technique, but they're not teaching kids when to utilize the technique.
I think
think
that first we need to get the technique down, and
Yeah.
depending
Okay.
on the age, because I think what we've been talking about is that people's technique is horrible. And again, the coaches need to educate themselves as well. I think a lot of, obviously we know how to teach throwing properly, but I think
Well, apparently I don't, because I'm throwing up to teach people how to do the over.
but I think a good majority of people probably don't, and they don't really understand the mechanics behind it, the body placement, the foot placement, how to shift your weight, how to hold the ball. And I know that's breaking it down, like being really, really breaking it down, but it seems to me that sometimes this is what has to happen. It's not flowing easily for our keepers right now. And eventually when they get it, and I had a keeper in club that I couldn't throw at all. And now he's almost hitting midfield on a sling throw. And I love it. And he uses it exactly when he's supposed to. And he leads that outside winger, and it's awesome. But it took a lot of, breaking it down. And like I said, I used to stand on the baseball diamond on the center, on the pitcher's mound with them, and just like break down mechanics. And then I would take the kids out to on the basketball court, because I used to do this at Rutgers. I said this last week, with a bag of balls, and I'd stand at mid-court and full court and throw sling throws to make full court baskets and half court baskets, because it forced me to put the right spin on the ball to have it drop if it hit the backboard, or just go right in. And I just used to do it over and over and over again. And I do that with my kids with club. I put them on the basketball court sometimes. They love that practice. And it forces them to step into the ball properly and everything. I really think we have to dumb it down. Then you can move on to when to use it, how to use it, the best options. But you got to get the mechanics down first. You got to.
Yeah, agreed. I think the mechanics are important, and be able to do that. I think one way that we try and do that in our youngest groups, because I feel like it's got to start with the youngest group. I know Blige mentioned this last week. We talk about technique, and obviously we have our goalkeepers try and catch everything at a young age, and with the proper technique, and then bring it home. Nobody does that anymore, which is another thing that I get kind of upset about.
Oh, bringing the ball back in, bringing it into the body. Yeah.
Bring it safe, bring it to this. I mean, nobody's going to get it from me, but it also, what I learned at an early age, the ball was big, but I was able, if I did this, I could cup it in this area here between my forearm and hand, and use that as my throw. So I was able to lock it in there and then go from there to throw.
You're talking about the little guys.
Difference.
You're talking about with the little guys.
Yeah, even the little guys. once you get it cupped in there, like it's tough, you can hold it to your chest, cup it and maneuver it the way you want to. And then when you go to release it, you just bring it back and go, and it's cupped in there nicely so that you can let it go. But
I even make my kids,
I
make my kids roll their sleeves down so they can actually feel it. So they understand the ball against their skin, and they understand that and how that release comes off. Because sometimes, they have sweatshirts on. I'm like, no, I want you to feel this against your forearm. I want you to understand how to hold this ball.
You guys just brought up a really good point, which first off, John, that whole thing with when you bring it in home and then use that to cup it, to bring it forward. I am stealing that. That is incredible. That is next level. I can't wait to go outside and actually just do that today after.
I'm stealing your overhand.
I'm not kidding. I'm going to do my overhead.
Can you video that with me so I can steal that?
Oh my God. I'm going to do my overhead throw. I'm going to do an overhead throw training session.
Nice.
When this quarantine ends, we're going to do a clinic. Saskia and I are going to do a clinic, and I'm going to run the overhead throw session
there you go.
of that clinic.
And I'm going to go get coffee.
But no, you brought up a good point. You brought up a good point. A lot of kids are trying to palm the ball. They're trying to palm the ball. And then that's why the ball keeps slipping out, and that's why they have trouble.
Can't palm. The ball's too big.
Can't palm the ball, and that's not how you're supposed to throw it anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you get them to kind of lock it in, and then slingshot from there, it'll make a huge difference. But I think what's important, Saskia brought up, I think, you do your beginning warm-up drills where you're doing your handling. And one thing we do with our youngest groups is they handle, they collect, they bring it in, and then there's a technique throw out to a target, whether it's a mini goal and whatever, and they kind of work the exercises that way. And we're able to change the throw, what they want, whether it's a bowl, whether it's an overhead over the top of over top of a dummy into a goal, whatever it is, to work on that skill set. And the better they are at that at an earlier age, the easier it is. And for us, we that's part of our foundational level of development with our youngest group, that they understand what those are. It's slowly getting better, but it takes time, because the next step, and Saskia brought this up, but you need to have games where they're forced to do those actions. So, they can't put the ball down. They have to be able to throw it. Say if the field's in thirds, they have to first round, they have to roll it out in the defensive third.
And
Second round, they have to make it into
we do that.
to the other
We do
third.
that as we advance too. Like with our club, especially, it's like you're not allowed to punt the ball. You're not allowed to kick the ball.
Yeah.
You have to use hand distribution. You have to. And I want to see it. And it also makes them read the field and read it quicker. And absolutely no, especially kids, no punting, no kicking.
Yeah.
You have to force it.
My favorite is the kid that uses the sling throw as a punt. They just throw the ball as high as possible in the air and then just come straight down. And I'm like, how do you think this is an effective throw? I've never understood how that. You literally just sort of playing three flies up. You're just throwing pop flies up to people.
Totally.
And hoping for the best. Let's talk about throwing into pressure, because this is something that a lot of coaches get mad, and I'm not, whether there's a lack of education or whatever, they get upset with their goalkeepers for throwing into pressure, rather than recognizing that these goalkeepers need to make these mistakes in order to learn when is the right decision to throw and when is the wrong decision to throw. You guys at the professional level, but both of you guys playing at the elite level, did you ever throw into pressure intentionally for any specific reasons?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I knew it just depended on where the person was. I could throw it in there, and if it suffocated the D and he was able to get out or move it to break down the defense, I didn't mind throwing it into that, especially if it was a guy that I knew could deal with the ball under pressure and move it to the area that needed to get to. A guy that comes to mind, actually, I'm just being in New York, when I was in New York, with like a guy like Claudio Reyna. You could give it to him wherever you wanted to, and he would be fine, and he wants it. So obviously there's a difference between giving it to him knowing that he's going to get whacked as soon as he receives it, and giving it to him knowing that there's going to be some pressure coming quickly, and he knows the solution to get
It's
out,
gonna lay it off.
and you're able to get the guys going forward and break
But
down.
usually the more, and I had the same thing with national team players and stuff like that. Like, you know, you've worked so much together and stuff. I know that if somebody's coming to me with pressure on their back, they're like, give me the ball, because they know and I know what kind of ball they want. Either, you know, Foudy's going to flick it off, Mia's going to flick it off, somebody's going to flick it off because they know Lil's running or somebody else is running, and they're drawing the defense in. I'm giving them the right kind of ball, and they play it off, and that's absolutely playing into pressure for that reason. So yes, I've done it plenty of times, but you've got to be on point with your players, else they're going to get whacked.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and then they're going to be pissed.
You know, especially, for sure. You're
going to be pissed. They're going to be like, why the hell did you play me that ball?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that, you know, we especially with the kids, like if you roll the ball out, the only solution the person that you roll the ball to shouldn't be back to you.
Absolutely.
That's a really that's a really good point, because otherwise, why did you play that ball?
Why did you play it? So the solution, you know, at the pro level though, like we do it just to move, sometimes just to move people in front of us, and this is you know, a higher level than, you know, as we develop youth kids. But you know, if you roll a ball out at the youth level, the only solution they have shouldn't be back to you. They should have the ability to play different players. Otherwise, don't give it to them. Otherwise, you know, there's a better solution out there.
Yeah. By the way, guys, we've been going for like almost an hour and a half now. This is amazing. This is what happens, John, when we start talking goalkeeping, and especially when it's Jersey people. The stories start coming out. It's just yeah.
And we all been cooped up. We all been cooped up.
But that honestly,
see, right now.
Hold on. But that's the thing. I feel like these episodes are only they're gonna be longer during quarantine, and once everybody can get back out to the fields, they're gonna be like, I can give you 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Before we go, there was something you said that Blodge and Mulch had mentioned in last week's episode that you kind of wanted to add on to. Did we get to that yet, or
yeah, no, we just talked about, you know, they talked about a lot about. Well, we did touch on it. What's the goalkeeper look like going forward for us? And you know, Mulch brought up about reading the game, and I just wanted to add on to that. I think he brings up good points. They don't play enough games, which I think, and high pressured and environments that are meaningful. And also just go back to my first point about in the past, we made really good goalkeepers. Yeah. And the game has evolved now where like you have to be a really good goalkeeper and be a soccer player. And I think it's easier if we start the foundation early on with kids of being good soccer players, and then transition them into good goalkeepers. You know, obviously they're at the early age, they're majoring in, to go back to the school thing, they're majoring in soccer and minoring in goalkeeping. And then once they get to 13 or 14, you know, 13, 14, 15, the transition starts to where you become a major in goalkeeping and a minor in sort of the outfield stuff. And I think we've got it kind of backwards. And I think that's kind of why we're in a bit of a spell that we are now. We're not sure quite where we're going in the next phase. I think we have a lot of guys that are good enough and could be really good, but we need to find the next curve and be ahead of it. And I don't think we're quite ahead of it.
Yeah. I was going to say that I love what you said in regards to the major and the minor. That's
you're going to steal that too?
I'm going to steal that too. Yes, I am. Don't worry. I steal stuff from you too, Sosk, all the time.
I'll have my lawyer with my trademarking on those things.
What else are you going to steal, Michael?
All right. Before we go, unless Sosk wants to add on to that.
He didn't see me do that because his hand was down. You can keep that one. I won't steal it.
The overhead. We're gonna do an episode one day where it's just gonna be me showcasing the overhead throw. Since I got two Rutgers people here on the show right now, do either one of you guys want to share a Rutgers story before we get off? Who wants to share?
I just all in all,
Even if it's a record share between you two, if you want to share it.
No, I don't want to share a story. I want to go back to what John had brought up in the beginning. And it was just, being welcome with the Rutgers men with open arms, it can be quite intimidating. I mean, think about it. Like you tell a female player, go, you're going to go practice with the men every day. And not every guy, like I remember after I graduated coming out and I think it was Tyler, was like, who's this chick? Like, why is there a chick playing with us? He ended up being my roommate and one of my best friends. But like, I was out of college. But and I remember just the boys and the keepers and Bob were just like, that's Saskia. Don't even question it. You'll see. And it was just like, I was always welcomed with open arms at Rutgers with the men. And I considered them just as much of my team as I did the women's team. I practice with them every day, all the time. I practice with them even more than I ever practiced with the women's team because I practice with them after. And to be welcomed like that and trained like that and at that, and the speed helped me. Everything helped me. It's what put me on the national team. I do remember, though, I would get to national team camp in the beginning, and Anson would be like, Saskia, you've been training with the men again, because my positioning would be off. Because the men, when they would shoot a ball, a lot of times it would move differently and keep rising. So I'd be caught off my line a little bit because women, like sometimes when they shoot it would like die and dip. Yep. So there were just these different things. But other than that, it gave me I was fearless and, nothing fazed me whatsoever. And it just gave me this strength, and I will forever be grateful for that. And, John was a part of that. Absolutely.
One thing I would say about Saskia, and I mentioned it earlier, is, she came in to get better and train, and again, she was fearless. But once, I got to know her and understand her, like, I was going to push her as hard as I was push anybody else, because if she's out there and wants to get better, I'm not going to treat her any differently. And I think that was one thing that we did a good job in the groups that were there with, you didn't treat her any differently. She's there to get better. She's going to go through it, and that's the way it is. And I think, it's interesting, Saskia. I've been fortunate to be friendly with some of the Canadian women national team players. And it's interesting, like it's not that, a lot of them had opportunities. Stephanie LeBay played it for the PDL in Calgary and actually made the men's team. And then it got blown out of proportion and she wasn't able to do it. But, I think the thing that all women want in this game is to be, in the same environments, and the environments aren't quite the same yet. I think we'll eventually get there, but they're not there yet. And, and I think they just want to be a part of that environment because it's different from the environments that they've been in a lot of places. And especially on the professional level now with MLS and the women's league. And I think it's important that if the opportunity comes, and I would not be opposed to this, if they want to train, then they train. If they want to come in and do their thing. We had the Canadian women team in, and they trained with our under 19
and we used to do that as a US,
it was unbelievable.
We used to do that as a US women's team. We used to scrimmage them all the time. And like I told you the other day was, Mike, I went and I trained with the men's national team and was welcomed with open arms. It was 2 weeks before we had to report for our final World Cup camp in '99, and I was in DC, and the men were getting ready, I think, to play Argentina. And I picked the phone up and I called Bruce Arena and I said, I'm in DC. I'm in between. I'm on a break. I need to train. And he's like, get in here. And I went in and I trained at camp, and I trained with Casey and Brad, and it was the same response to me. What the same way, get in there, this is, and I know part of that's my attitude, but I think that I've always been blessed that I've been welcomed with open arms, and it started at Rutgers. So,
but that's always one of the issues that I've had, and this could be a whole other episode, so we're not going to really delve deep into this. Is that whenever people contact, me regarding training, and they go like, oh, do you do co-ed or do you split them up? And I'm like, no, whoever's at the level trains with the people who are at
absolutely.
That's what it is. I don't care how old they are. I don't care what gender they are. If they're of the level, they're training at the level.
Yeah, if you're at the level and you can hold your own, you're going to train with whoever's there. Period.
Because it's only going to benefit that person.
Yeah.
It's so. All right, I have a session to do at 5:00 today. Speaking of virtual, overhead throwing session. We're gonna do.
Well, let's do this again for sure.
Oh yeah, John. I mean, I know your schedule's a lot crazier once the season starts back up again and everything like that. But we definitely, and when you guys come into LA and stuff, we'll definitely have to get together.
Oh yes, please.
And all that for sure. I know it didn't work out last time with your guys' preseason. It was a little quick trip that you guys had right there. But it was pretty hectic, huh? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The preseason gets so weird sometimes just because the amount of stuff going on, from training to workouts to whatever else is going on, meetings. So it gets a little crazy, but all in all, next time we're out in California, we'd love to catch up with you guys.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I need to come to Toronto. I still haven't been there.
Great city.
I got to catch up with Klonowski too from Toronto FC too.
Yeah.
He's out there. John, if anybody wants to reach out to you, if there's any coaches out there that are looking for advice or, anything like that, like where's the best place for people to reach out to you? Active on social media or where?
Yeah. Active on Twitter and Instagram. You can hit me up there. That'd probably be the best way to go about it, and then reach out and move from there. But open to questions if anybody has any.
Yeah. And that's that'll be in the show notes, guys, for you guys to check that out. All right. I'm losing my voice here. I'm getting tired because I've been honestly, all I can think about is overhead throws right now.
That's all I can think about too.
Contact at insidethe18media.com, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. Saskia's still laughing right now because I just didn't hear what she said, but it must have been hilarious.
I'm just still laughing.
Great shows coming up this week. We got Casey Murphy, another Rutgers alum, in a couple days. That's all the time on Inside the 18. If you want to reach out to Saskia Weber, just at
overheadthrowing.com.
At overheadthrowing.com. At overheadthrowing.com.
It's Saskia Weber, both at Facebook and Instagram. So.
All right, guys, that's all the time on Inside the 18. We're out. Later, guys.